The war begins. The stars of the galaxy twinkled softly in the deep silence of space, unaware of the storm that was about to break. It had been a time of uneasy peace for Earth, a peace that had lasted for decades. The humans had made their mark in the universe, building cities on distant planets, advancing in technology, and forging alliances with some of the lesser-known alien races. But there were always whispers of greater threats, of stronger enemies lurking beyond the edge of the galaxy. Now those whispers had turned into a roar. Far across the stars, the Galactic Empire, a vast and powerful force, had set its sights on Earth. They had watched humanity for years, studying their progress, calculating their weaknesses. They saw the humans as nothing more than a minor obstacle, a tiny speck in the vastness of the universe. The Empire had conquered countless worlds, crushed countless civilizations, and Earth, with its primitive technology, was no match for their might. Yet the humans were unaware of the impending danger. Life continued as usual on Earth, with people going about their daily routines, unaware that their world was about to be thrust into a galactic war. The only sign of what was coming was the strange activity in the skies, ships moving silently across the horizon, far too high to be seen by ordinary citizens. The government had caught wind of the Empire's movements, but they had no idea how soon the attack would come. No one could have predicted that the galaxy's most feared empire would turn its focus on Earth. The Empire's fleet, vast and imposing, was already on its way. Hundreds of warships, each one larger and more powerful than anything the humans had ever seen, were moving swiftly toward Earth's atmosphere. Their commanders were confident. They had wiped out entire civilizations with ease in the past, and Earth, with its old-fashioned defenses, would be no different. The Empire's emperor himself had ordered the invasion, eager to add Earth to his growing list of conquered worlds. In the war rooms of the Empire's command center, the generals laughed. Their ships were equipped with advanced weaponry, shields that could deflect the strongest of attacks, and armies ready to storm any planet that dared stand in their way. They had already decided what would happen. Earth's fate was sealed. Back on Earth, a small, quiet meeting was taking place in a dark room far beneath the surface. The leaders of the world's military forces gathered in secrecy, knowing the time for action was near. They had learned of the Empire's plans, but no one knew how to defend against such a mighty force. For years, they had prepared for this, but how could they be ready for something so powerful, so overwhelming? The humans, unlike the Empire, did not have the luxury of sheer numbers. They did not have the massive fleets or the overwhelming firepower. But what they did have, what they always had, was something the Empire underestimated: ingenuity. They had the ability to think, adapt, and fight with a fierce determination that no one could match. The leaders of Earth's forces were determined to show the galaxy that humanity would not go down without a fight. As the news of the approaching invasion spread, fear and panic started to take hold. People wondered what would happen to their homes, their families. Would Earth become just another conquered world? Would they be enslaved by the Empire, their freedom ripped away in an instant? But there was one thing the Empire didn't know. In the dark depths of Earth's hidden facilities, the humans had been building something. It wasn't just a ship. It wasn't just a weapon. It was humanity's greatest creation, a ship unlike any the universe had ever seen. No one had ever guessed that Earth had such a weapon, and no one could have imagined what it could do. This was not just another piece of human technology. It was something far greater, something that would surprise even the Empire. The world's military leaders had kept it a secret for as long as possible. But now, with the Empire's fleet drawing nearer, they had no choice but to unveil their trump card. The ship was called Titan Class, and it was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Its size was beyond comprehension, its weapons far more advanced than anything the aliens had ever encountered. It had been designed for one purpose: to defend Earth from a threat that no one could predict. And now, the time had come for it to be revealed to the galaxy. The Titan-class ship, constructed in secret for years, had been placed in orbit just beyond Earth's atmosphere, waiting for this moment. It was silent, hidden, and deadly. Only a few people knew of its existence, and they knew that it would be humanity's last hope. If the Empire's fleet reached Earth, it could be the end for humanity. But if this ship could do what it was designed for, it could change everything. As the countdown to the invasion began, the leaders of Earth held their breath. They had no idea what to expect. Would the Titan-class ship be enough to stop the Empire's massive fleet? Would the humans be able to use their ingenuity to outsmart their enemy, just as they had done countless times before? The Empire was confident, but the humans had something the Empire did not: the will to fight. And now, they would show the galaxy that Earth would not fall without a fight. The first shots were fired across the galaxy as the Empire's fleet entered Earth's solar system. But the humans were ready. The war had begun, and Earth would not go down easily. The Empire's fleet loomed ever closer, its enormous ships casting dark shadows over the solar system as they approached Earth. Their presence was overwhelming, and for many on Earth, it seemed like an unstoppable force. The Earth's defenses, outdated and modest compared to the Empire's vast arsenal, had always been considered more of a deterrent than a true defense. But little did the Empire know, their confidence would soon be shattered. Inside the hidden military command center deep beneath the surface of Earth, the tension was palpable. Every leader in the room understood that this was a turning point, a moment that could determine the fate of their entire species. The Earth's top generals and scientists had spent years preparing for a day like this, but even they had no idea how it would play out. The Titan-class ship, their greatest creation, stood silently in orbit, hidden in the shadow of a massive asteroid field. From the outside, it appeared just like another small fleet of research ships or satellites. But inside, it was a different story. The ship was a fortress, a weapon designed to challenge even the most powerful of adversaries. Its technology was centuries ahead of anything the Empire had ever encountered, its engines capable of moving faster than any known ship, and its weapon systems designed for precision destruction. The ship's captain, Commander Helena Graves, stood at the helm, eyes fixed on the holographic display in front of her. She had spent her life preparing for this moment, understanding that she wasn't just commanding a ship, she was commanding humanity's last hope. The crew aboard the Titan class was composed of the best and brightest minds Earth had to offer. Experts in every field, united by a single mission: to defend their home, no matter the cost. "We're ready, Commander," Lieutenant James Mercer said, standing at attention beside her. His voice was calm, but there was an edge of tension that only those who had seen the horrors of war could understand. Helena nodded slowly, her fingers lightly tapping the surface of the console in front of her. "This is it," she said quietly. "If this doesn't work, we'll have to make a stand without it. But we won't give up. Not now. Not ever." The crew nodded in agreement, knowing the risks they were taking. The Empire's ships were already in position, their massive forms blocking out the stars as they waited for the order to strike. The Titan class was humanity's secret weapon. And now, with the Empire only moments away from striking, it was time to reveal its true power. "Initiate launch sequence," Commander Graves ordered. The ship's massive engines roared to life, the sound reverberating throughout the vast, silent expanse of space. Slowly, the Titan-class ship began to move, breaking free of the asteroid's shadow and heading toward Earth's orbit. Its sleek, intimidating frame was designed not only for speed and agility, but also to strike fear into the hearts of anyone who saw it. As it moved through space, the ship's weapon systems powered up, and its hull began to glow with an otherworldly energy. It was ready. The Empire's fleet was still unaware of what was happening. Their commanders, overconfident in their technological superiority, expected to sweep through Earth's defenses without a second thought. But as they moved closer, their sensors picked up an anomaly. A ship, far larger than any they had ever seen, was emerging from the asteroid field. "Sir, we have an unidentified vessel approaching," a communications officer reported to the Imperial Fleet Commander. "It's enormous. Our scanners are detecting unprecedented power levels coming from it." The commander of the Empire's fleet, Admiral Gore, looked at the screen with a mixture of disbelief and suspicion. "Impossible," he muttered. "Earth doesn't have the capacity to build anything like this. Prepare to engage, but be cautious. We can't afford to underestimate this." Admiral Gore's confidence wavered for a moment, but he quickly masked it with arrogance. He had led the Empire's forces through countless victories, and there was no way a single ship from Earth could pose a threat to his mighty fleet. "Prepare for battle," he ordered. But the moment he gave the command, something incredible happened. The Titan-class ship, still moving steadily toward Earth's atmosphere, unleashed a burst of energy that sent shockwaves through space. The Empire's fleet felt the impact, and their ships trembled under the force. The Titan class had fired its first salvo, and in that instant, the Empire's overconfidence was shattered. The first wave of energy blasts slammed into the closest of the Empire's warships. The shields, which had easily deflected every attack from countless worlds, flickered under the assault. The blast was so intense that the massive ship shuddered, the outer hull cracking under the strain. The Empire's fleet had never encountered a ship with this kind of firepower before. "Damage reports now," Admiral Gore barked. The officers scrambled to assess the situation, but before they could respond, another wave of energy rained down from the Titan-class ship, hitting another of the Empire's warships. The results were catastrophic. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash, leaving nothing but debris in its wake. "Deploy the full fleet. All ships, engage that vessel," Gore ordered, his voice trembling with a mix of anger and fear. The Empire's massive fleet opened fire, but their weapons were ineffective against the Titan-class ship's advanced shields. Each blast from the Empire's ships barely scratched the surface of the Titan class, while the return fire from Earth's ship continued to decimate the Imperial forces. Back on Earth, the world watched in awe as the Titan-class ship, seemingly invincible, unleashed its fury upon the Empire's fleet. The humans had always been underestimated by the galaxy's more powerful civilizations, but now they were showing the universe exactly what they were capable of. "Are we really doing this?" Lieutenant Mercer whispered, his eyes wide, as he watched the battle unfold. Commander Graves didn't answer immediately. Instead, she watched the screens in front of her, calculating the movements of the Empire's fleet, determining her next move. Her eyes were filled with determination, but also with a quiet fear. The battle had just begun, and this would be the most difficult challenge humanity had ever faced. But one thing was certain: Earth would fight back, and it would not be easily defeated. The universe held its breath as the first wave of destruction unfolded above Earth. The Empire's fleet, caught off guard by the might of the Titan-class ship, struggled to regroup. Their once confident commanders, who had believed that Earth's forces were weak and unprepared, now found themselves in the middle of an unprecedented battle. The mighty Empire, which had conquered countless worlds, was now facing an adversary unlike any they had ever encountered. Back aboard the Titan-class ship, Commander Helena Graves remained calm, her eyes fixed on the holographic battle display in front of her. The battle was only just beginning, but she could already see the damage the Empire's fleet had sustained. She was focused, every move calculated. Her crew, too, was laser-focused, each person playing their part in the ship's operation as if their very lives depended on it. Because, for many of them, they did. "Status report," Commander Graves ordered, her voice steady, betraying none of the pressure she felt. "Shields holding at 85%, Commander," reported Lieutenant Mercer from the weapons console. "Weapons are fully charged. The first wave was effective, but they're starting to regroup." "Understood. We need to keep them on the defensive," Helena said, her mind racing through the tactical options. The Titan class was powerful, but it wasn't invulnerable. They couldn't afford to underestimate their opponents. The Empire's ships were still massive, and their numbers were far greater than Earth's fleet. "Commander, they're deploying more ships," another officer reported. "It looks like reinforcements are on the way. They're calling for backup from the outer systems." Helena's jaw clenched. The stakes had just been raised, but there was no turning back now. The Earth wasn't going to fold, not after everything they had fought for. "We've got one shot at this," she said, her eyes hardening with resolve. "Get me a direct line to command." The communications officer quickly complied, and soon the face of General Mark Steele, the Earth Defense Force's highest-ranking officer, appeared on the screen. His expression was grim but determined. "Commander, you're doing good work up there," General Steele said. "But the Empire isn't going to back down. We need to make sure they know we're not just going to disappear." "I'm aware, General," Helena replied. "We're holding them off, but they're calling in reinforcements. The longer this goes on, the more dangerous it gets for us. Keep them on the defensive as long as you can. We've got something special on the ground that should tip the scales in your favor," Steele said, his eyes flashing with determination. "We'll give you the support you need." Helena didn't need to ask what he meant. The Earth Defense Force had been working on secret technologies, preparing for a worst-case scenario like this. It was time for that technology to shine. "Understood," she said, her tone cold and commanding. "We'll hold them until then." Back in space, the battle between the Titan-class ship and the Empire's fleet intensified. The Empire, unwilling to lose face, launched wave after wave of attacks, trying to overwhelm the human vessel with sheer firepower. But the Titan class was a marvel of human engineering. Its advanced energy shields absorbed the Empire's blasts, and the retaliatory strikes from Earth's ship were swift and deadly. Another wave of Empire warships appeared, emerging from the black void like a swarm of locusts. They surrounded the Titan-class ship from all sides, but Commander Graves wasn't fazed. Her eyes flicked over the holographic screen, watching as the Empire's ships closed in for the kill. But there was no panic in her demeanor. Instead, she looked determined, knowing that she held the upper hand. "Now," she ordered. Without missing a beat, Lieutenant Mercer fired the Titan-class ship's primary weapon. The energy burst erupted with such intensity that it lit up the entire battlefield, a flash so bright that even the Empire's warships were momentarily blinded by the brilliance. The shockwave from the blast tore through space, and the closest enemy ships were ripped apart, their hulks floating aimlessly as debris. The Empire's commanders scrambled to regain control. They had underestimated the human ship's firepower, and the shock of losing another group of warships was enough to shake even their iron resolve. Admiral Gore, watching from his flagship, was fuming with rage. He had never been so humiliated. They had lost hundreds of ships, and still Earth's Titan-class ship fought on, undeterred. Increase firepower. Destroy that ship. Admiral Gore barked, his voice thick with fury. "We will not be humiliated by these insignificant creatures." But every wave of fire the Empire's ships sent was absorbed by the Titan-class's impenetrable shields. It was clear that this ship was designed for one purpose only, to take on the might of the Empire and win. And then, in a move that caught even the battle-hardened commanders of the Empire off guard, the Titan-class ship did something that no one expected. It vanished. The Empire fleet commanders scrambled to understand what had happened, scanning the empty space where the Titan class had once been. Then, just as quickly as it had disappeared, the Titan-class ship reappeared right in the middle of the Empire's formation, devastating them with a volley of energy blasts. The surprise tactic was unlike anything the Empire had seen before, and the damage it caused was catastrophic. They've adapted," Admiral Gore said, his voice faltering. "They're not fighting like we expected." Helena watched the chaos unfold on the battlefield, her eyes narrowing with determination. This was humanity's moment. Every step they took in this battle, every shot fired, was a statement. Earth wasn't backing down. The Empire was learning the hard way. They had underestimated humanity, and now they were about to pay the price. The Empire's fleet was in disarray. For the first time in centuries, they faced a challenge unlike any other. The Titan-class ship had already taken down 2 waves of Empire warships, and the Empire's commanders were scrambling to come up with a plan to overcome this unexpected force. They had underestimated Earth, and now, the price of that arrogance was becoming painfully clear. Back aboard the Titan-class ship, Commander Helena Graves stood before the battle map, her eyes scanning the ever-changing data. The battle was far from over, and while they had inflicted significant damage on the Empire's fleet, they were still outnumbered. The reinforcements from the outer systems were already en route, and the Empire wasn't going to give up easily. But Commander Graves wasn't worried. They had something the Empire didn't: human ingenuity, and that, she believed, would make all the difference. "We need to keep them on the defensive," Graves said, her voice cool and collected. "We've made a good start, but the longer we wait, the more dangerous this becomes. We can't afford to let them regroup." Her crew, ever loyal and battle-hardened, nodded in agreement. They had been trained for moments like this, and now was the time to show the universe what humanity was capable of. "Prepare the next sequence," Graves ordered. "Let's turn up the pressure." Lieutenant Mercer, the ship's weapons officer, worked quickly, inputting the necessary commands to launch the next wave of attacks. "Energy levels are charged, Commander," he reported. "We're ready to fire." With a calm nod, Graves gave the signal. The Titan-class ship fired again, a series of energy blasts so intense they tore through the emptiness of space. The explosions were so bright they lit up the entire battlefield, casting shadows over the remaining Empire ships. As the enemy ships scrambled to avoid the attack, Graves took advantage of the chaos to launch a surprise maneuver that none of the Empire fleet commanders had expected. The Titan-class ship suddenly disappeared from view once again, leaving the Empire fleet in confusion. They searched the space around them, but the human ship was nowhere to be found. Then, just as suddenly as it had vanished, the Titan class reappeared, this time right above the flagship of Admiral Gore's fleet. "Fire!" Graves barked, and once again, the Titan class unleashed a devastating volley of fire, ripping through the enemy ships in its path. The Empire flagship shuddered under the barrage, its shields buckling under the force of the energy blasts. The crew aboard the ship could hear the alarms blaring, warning of imminent destruction, but there was no escape. The Empire's most powerful vessel was now on the verge of collapse. Admiral Gore, watching the carnage unfold from his command center, could feel his anger rise to the boiling point. "No, this cannot happen," he screamed. This is impossible. A single ship cannot defeat us." But his protests were drowned out by the deafening explosions and the screams of his crew as their flagship was torn apart by the Titan-class ship's relentless assault. The shockwaves from the blast sent other ships in the fleet into a panic, scattering in all directions in a desperate attempt to evade the devastation. The Empire's once unshakable confidence was now shattered. They had underestimated Earth's technology, its resilience, and its ability to adapt. What had started as an overwhelming victory for the Empire was quickly turning into a nightmare they couldn't escape. "Admiral, we need to retreat," one of the officers on the bridge of the flagship pleaded, but Admiral Gore was too proud to give in. His mind was clouded with rage and humiliation. "No retreat," Gore shouted. "We will crush them. We will crush these insignificant creatures." But his orders were ignored. The fleet's morale was collapsing, and the Empire's grip on the battle was slipping. Ships that had once been part of the Empire's dominant fleet were now retreating, unwilling to face the wrath of the Titan-class ship. It was no longer a battle for supremacy. It had become a battle for survival. On the Titan-class ship, Commander Graves watched the Empire's fleet break apart. Her heart was pounding in her chest, but she refused to let herself feel anything other than focus. This was far from over. They had inflicted significant damage, but they couldn't afford to let up. The Empire would regroup, and they would be back with a vengeance. "Commander, we've taken down their flagship," Lieutenant Mercer reported, his voice tinged with disbelief. "The rest of the fleet is in full retreat." Graves allowed herself a brief moment of satisfaction, but she didn't let it distract her from the task at hand. "Don't get complacent," she said, her voice hard as steel. "Prepare for the next wave. We've made them run, but we still need to finish this." As the battle raged on, one thing became clear. Humanity had proven itself capable of standing up to the might of the Empire. They had shown the galaxy that Earth was not a world to be trifled with, and they had delivered a blow that would resonate throughout the stars. The Empire may have underestimated humanity, but they would never make that mistake again. The Empire's retreat was short-lived. Despite their humiliating loss, they were not prepared to admit defeat so easily. As the remnants of their once mighty fleets scattered across the void, Admiral Gore began to formulate a new plan. His pride, wounded by the unexpected power of Earth's Titan-class ship, had been replaced with a burning desire for revenge. He would not be the one to lose this war. Back aboard the Titan-class ship, Commander Helena Graves stood in silence, her eyes fixed on the battle map. The Empire's ships were pulling back to regroup, but Graves knew that this was only a temporary respite. They would return, stronger and more determined than ever. The Titan-class ship had dealt them a devastating blow, but Earth's forces still faced an uphill battle. The Empire had the numbers, and they had the resources. They would not give up so easily. "Commander," Lieutenant Mercer spoke, his voice filled with concern. "We've taken significant damage. We're running low on ammunition and fuel. If they return with full force, we may not be able to withstand another assault." Graves turned slowly to face her crew, her expression as calm as ever. "We knew this wouldn't be easy," she said, her voice steady and firm. "But we've already accomplished more than they thought possible. We've shaken their confidence, and we've shown them that we will fight until the end." Her words gave the crew a sense of resolve, but the situation was becoming more dire by the minute. Every system on the ship had been pushed to its limits, and they had no idea how much longer they could keep up the fight. But there was one thing Graves knew for certain: the humans would not back down. Not now, not ever. Meanwhile, Admiral Gore was furious. He had never anticipated such a setback. The defeat of his flagship had sent shockwaves through the Empire, and now he had to face the reality of a war that could end in disaster. His fleet was scattered, and his command structure was in disarray, but he was determined to make Earth pay for what had happened. "Prepare the fleet," Gore barked. "We will show them what happens when they challenge the Empire." As the Empire's remaining ships began to regroup, they formed a new battle plan, one that would overwhelm the Titan-class ship with sheer numbers. They would not rely on their advanced weapons or technology this time. Instead, they would rely on brute force, throwing everything they had at the single human ship. "Admiral, the fleet is ready," an officer reported. "We will engage on your command." Gore's face twisted with rage. Engage them. No mercy. As the Empire's ships moved to engage, Graves prepared her crew for the inevitable showdown. The battle was about to reach its peak, and Earth's forces were more vulnerable than ever. But Commander Graves would not allow the enemy to take Earth. She would fight until the very end, even if it meant sacrificing everything. "Braced for impact," Graves ordered. The Titan-class ship had sustained considerable damage, but it was still operational. The crews scrambled to their stations, securing weapons and shields, preparing for the worst. The first wave of the Empire's fleet arrived in a flurry of blinding lights, ships charging forward with terrifying speed. The Titan-class fired first, sending a barrage of energy blasts toward the incoming fleet. The explosions were deafening as ships exploded into brilliant flashes of light. But despite the damage inflicted, the Empire kept coming, relentless in their pursuit of victory. "Commander, we're running low on power," Lieutenant Mercer said urgently. The energy cells are almost drained. Graves' eyes flicked to the readouts, her heart racing. The situation was dire. They couldn't keep this up much longer. She needed to think quickly. "We need to buy more time," Graves said, her mind working at lightning speed. "Activate the decoys. It's our only chance." The decoy system was a last-ditch effort, a series of false signals and traps designed to confuse the enemy. The Titan-class ship had them hidden in various parts of the ship's systems, but activating them would require precise timing and a great deal of risk. "Decoys activated," Commander Mercer confirmed. The decoys flared to life, creating multiple false targets and confusing the Empire's sensors. For a brief moment, the fleet was thrown into chaos. The Empire's ships fired blindly, targeting the decoys instead of the Titan-class ship itself. "Now," Graves shouted, "attack them while they're disoriented." With a surge of energy, the Titan-class unleashed its full power, firing at the weakened Empire fleet. The blast struck true, ripping through the remaining ships and causing massive explosions in their wake. The Empire's numbers were beginning to dwindle, and their morale was crumbling. They had not anticipated such resilience from the humans. But just as it seemed like victory was within reach, a new wave of ships appeared on the horizon. Larger, stronger, and more advanced than anything the Empire had thrown at them before. It was clear they had been saving their best for last. "Commander, this is it," Mercer said, his voice tight with fear. "We've given everything we have." Graves took a deep breath, her fingers gripping the command console. She could see the new wave of ships on the screen, and she knew they were the Empire's final assault. It was now or never. "We fight until the end," Graves declared, her voice unwavering. "Humanity doesn't surrender." As the Titan-class ship raced for the final battle, one thing was certain. Earth had already shown the galaxy that they were not to be underestimated. And no matter what happened next, they would not be forgotten. The new wave of Empire ships descended on the Titan-class ship like a swarm of locusts. Massive, heavily armed, and well-organized, they filled the void with their sheer size and power. Commander Helena Graves knew this would be their toughest battle yet, the Empire's final push to break Earth's resolve. But she wasn't ready to give up. Not now. Not ever. "Commander, the fleet's coming in fast," Lieutenant Mercer called out, his voice strained with urgency. "We're outgunned, outnumbered. We can't keep this up for much longer." Graves didn't flinch. She knew the odds were stacked against them. The Titan-class was Earth's greatest ship, but even it had its limits. Still, she couldn't let fear take hold. Humanity had come too far to let this moment slip away. "Redirect all power to shields and weapons," she ordered, her voice calm but resolute. "We'll fight every second of it." The crew scrambled, their fingers moving quickly over controls and consoles, trying to prepare for the onslaught. The Titan-class hummed with energy as its shields flared up, a bright blue dome of protection surrounding the ship. But it wouldn't be enough for long. The Empire's new ships were unlike anything they had faced before. Sleek, fast, and heavily armed, capable of dealing massive damage with just a single strike. "We've detected their flagship," Lieutenant Mercer reported. "It's heading directly for us. It's their leader, Admiral Gore. He's not backing down." "Let him come," Graves said quietly, her eyes narrowing. She was ready to face Gore once more. The man had underestimated humanity before, and now he would pay for it. They all would. As the Empire's fleet closed in, Graves looked around at her crew. The faces of the men and women on board the Titan-class ship were tired, battle-worn, but full of determination. They had already defied the odds by taking on the Empire and surviving this long. Now they would prove to the galaxy that Earth's might could not be crushed, no matter the cost. The first wave of Empire ships fired, their cannons roaring like thunder. Explosions shook the Titan-class, rattling the crew, but the shields held. For a moment, it seemed like the ship had withstood the initial assault, but Graves knew it wouldn't last. They needed to push back. Now, fire at will, Graves ordered. The Titan class unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, each shot hitting its mark. Enemy ships exploded into brilliant flashes of light as they were torn apart by the ship's devastating weaponry. The crew cheered as they saw the first few ships fall, but Graves didn't allow herself to get distracted. This was far from over. Admiral Gore's flagship is closing in, Lieutenant Mercer warned. They're using a special weapon, something we've never seen before. Graves' pulse quickened. She knew this would be the moment of truth. If they couldn't stop Gore's flagship, it would be game over. The Empire had saved their best for last, and now it was up to them to prove humanity's strength. Target their flagship, Graves shouted. Full power to the main cannons. We need to take them down before they get too close. The Titan class fired again, its main cannons glowing bright with power. The energy blasts shot through the void, heading straight for the flagship. But the Empire's new ship was fast, too fast. It dodged, narrowly avoiding the shots. It's too maneuverable, Lieutenant Mercer shouted. We can't lock onto it fast enough. Graves gritted her teeth. She had expected this. The flagship was unlike anything they had faced before. But there was one thing the Empire hadn't counted on. The Titan class had a secret weapon of its own. One final trick. Activate the cloaking device, Graves ordered. The cloaking technology was experimental, one of Earth's greatest achievements in stealth warfare. The ship would become nearly invisible to enemy sensors, allowing them to get in close and strike before the Empire even realized it. For a brief moment, the Titan class vanished from view. The Empire's fleet fired aimlessly, their weapons missing the invisible ship by mere inches. Graves knew this was their chance. Now, Graves ordered, and the Titan class emerged from the cloak, charging directly at Admiral Gore's flagship. The Empire's ship tried to maneuver, but it was too late. With a mighty roar, the Titan class released its full barrage, the energy blasts tearing through the enemy ship's defenses. Explosions rocked the flagship, its shields failing as the Titan class blasted through. The ship's core exploded in a blinding flash, sending debris flying in all directions. For a moment, the battlefield was silent. But then came the sound of victory, the cheers of the crew, who had just witnessed the impossible. They had done it. They had taken down the Empire's flagship. However, the battle wasn't over. There were still enemy ships swarming around them, determined to avenge their fallen leader. Graves knew that the fight would continue until every last Empire ship was either destroyed or driven off. But for now, Earth had won a critical battle, proving that humanity would never back down, no matter the odds. The Titan-class ship had defied the Empire and shown them that even a single human ship could change the course of an entire war. Graves stood at the front of the command center, her eyes scanning the battlefield. There was still much to do, but for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to feel a flicker of hope. The war wasn't over yet, but humanity had just taken one giant step toward victory. The battle had raged for what seemed like hours, but Commander Helena Graves knew it wasn't over. The Empire's remaining ships were battered and retreating, but there was still a tense silence in the air. The crew of the Titan class was exhausted, their faces pale from the constant stress of the battle. But they had done it. They had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious. Admiral Gore's flagship had been destroyed, and with it, the Empire's strategic advantage. But Graves knew that the Empire wouldn't give up so easily. The momentary victory was just the beginning. Now, Earth had to prove it could hold on to its newfound strength, and that would mean standing firm against whatever came next. Commander, Lieutenant Mercer's voice broke through the heavy silence. He stood beside Graves, staring at the still distant wreckage of the Empire's fleet. What's next? Graves took a deep breath and surveyed the damage on the battlefield. The wreckage of the Empire's ships floated in the distance, but Earth's Titan class had held its ground. They had survived. But there was more to be done. The Empire had underestimated humanity's resolve, and now Earth had earned the respect of the galaxy. "We hold the line," Graves said, her voice firm. "We send a message. This is humanity's territory now, and if the Empire wants a fight, we'll be ready for it." The crew looked at her, their faces a mixture of fatigue and relief. They had come so far, and now the war was entering a new phase. Earth wasn't just defending itself anymore. It was fighting back, showing the galaxy that it had teeth. The Empire had never imagined a single human ship could cause this much damage, but now they knew better. As the Titan class continued its pursuit, Graves turned to her communications officer. "Send a message to the Galactic Council. Let them know Earth has made its move, and let them know we're not backing down." A few moments passed before the officer nodded and began typing out the message. It was short and direct, a warning to anyone who might consider testing Earth's resolve. "This is Commander Helena Graves of the Titan class," the message began. "The Empire's fleet has been destroyed, and their invasion has failed. Earth stands, and we will defend our home against any force that seeks to destroy us. We are ready for the next chapter of this war." Graves watched as the message was sent. She knew it wouldn't be long before other factions in the galaxy took notice. Some would come to Earth's defense, while others might challenge its newfound strength. But no matter who came next, Earth would face them head-on, just as they had done with the Empire. "We've made history," Graves said, her voice almost a whisper, "but now we need to secure our future." The crew of the Titan class understood the weight of her words. This was just the beginning. They had fought for survival, but now they would fight for Earth's place in the galaxy, and they would fight for the generations yet to come. As the Titan class slowly made its way back to Earth, Graves looked out at the vast expanse of space. The darkness that once felt so ominous now seemed a little less intimidating. The Empire had thought they could crush humanity, but Earth had proven that it was far stronger than anyone could have ever imagined. The victory was sweet, but the war was far from over. The galaxy was vast, and the challenges Earth would face would only grow. But one thing was certain: humanity was no longer the underdog. They had earned their place in the stars, and no one would ever forget the day a single human ship shattered the Empire's fleet and changed the fate of the galaxy forever. Helena Graves stood tall at the front of the command center, her eyes fixed on the stars ahead. The future of Earth was bright, and it was theirs to shape. "Prepare for the next stage," she ordered, her voice filled with determination. "We're not done yet." The crew gave a unified cheer as the Titan class sailed toward Earth, ready for whatever came next. No longer just a species fighting for survival, humanity had become a force to be reckoned with. The age of underestimation was over, and a new chapter in human history was beginning. The universe would soon know that humanity's resolve was unshakable, and no matter what came their way, they would stand strong, together.